Hello, everyone, and thank you for your patience. As you know, this is a very busy time during the European political community, with the opportunity to meet with so many leaders and express the views and the positions of the Republic of Kosovo. But I want to begin by thanking Spain for bringing us together at this very important occasion in the third edition of the European political community. Once again, at the very beginning of this summit, we've had the opportunity to show our solidarity and support for Ukraine, a country that is facing aggression by Russia. But at the same time, during the meetings that I've had with the leaders, members of this community, and with some more that I will be meeting today in the evening, I've had the opportunity, of course, during these meetings that already occurred, to inform them in detail about the latest aggression that Kosovo has faced by Serbia. As you know, on the 24th of September, Serbia committed an act of aggression through terrorist groups and paramilitary groups against Kosovo. This time, Kosovo police managed to thwart and halt the complete exercise of this plan. It was a Crimea-style plan of annexing the north of Kosovo. And while that was happening, of course, Serbia was also preparing a military build-up around the border of Kosovo, almost 400 kilometers of the border, to an amount and extent that we haven't seen in these past 25 years. All of this shows that, unfortunately, even almost 25 years after the war, the same mindset exists in Serbia, which is to grab territories of others. And it shows that no matter the dialogue that is ongoing in Brussels, their intention is use of force, which is exactly what they did on September 24th. Now, all the evidence points to the leadership of Serbia, because the training of these terrorist groups was carried out and happened in the military bases, army bases of Serbia. And then secondly, the weapons that we have confiscated from that aggression show that they are military-grade weapons that have been produced as recent as just 6 weeks before the attack by the military industry of Serbia. So these are not the kind of weapons that can be sold to ordinary citizens. And there's a lot of more evidence that shows the direct connection of Serbia in organizing and also ordering this attack against Kosovo, this act of aggression against Kosovo. Now, my of course, presence here today was mostly aimed at discussing with partners, how do we prevent this from ever happening again? One, Kosovo needs security guarantees. We need the support of our partners to secure the border between Kosovo and Serbia so that they cannot smuggle in any more military-grade weapons, little green men uniforms, as well as military vehicles, as they've done in the past, and which they were used in the attack against Kosovo. And secondly, we need Vučić to learn the lesson. Unless there are harsh measures and sanctions against Serbia for organizing this act of aggression and terrorist act against Kosovo, unfortunately, this will embolden them, this will encourage them to do it again and again and again. We see that the way how this attack was organized, that it was straight out from Putin's playbook of 2014. From the maps that we have confiscated, the drone footage, as well as additional evidence, it shows that the plan was, of course, to, as I said, exercise a Crimea-style annexation and put us all in front of a fait accompli, where then they would talk about the new reality in the ground. We've seen that happen before, of course, with the territories that Russia keeps invading. Also, Vučić used, of course, very well-known tactic from Milosevic in the 90s, where he says, I had nothing to do with it. But of course, all the evidence points to him, including his very close connection to the top guy who organized the terrorist attack, Radojcic, who sits in the right hand of Vučić in meetings of the National Security Council of Serbia, and now is walking as a free man and is sheltered by Serbia instead of being surrendered and handed over to Kosovo to be tried based on due process of law. Now, we need, as I said, to move on with discussions for security guarantees for Kosovo. We also need to restart the conversation about Kosovo's membership, first to PFP and then moving on with NATO. and also request partners to stop selling any kind of weapons to Serbia, because they are abusing them to try to invade and annex their neighbors. Unfortunately, the destabilizing actions of Serbia are not only endangering Kosovo, but also Bosnia-Herzegovina and the rest of the region. So we believe that this was an attempt also by Putin to open a new front against the West by diverting the attention that rightly the West has on Ukraine right now and opening up new conflicts on European soil. Serbia must hand over all members of the terrorist group and not treat them as heroes for committing this act of aggression. And we will, of course, work very closely with partners to step up security in our country in full cooperation with ULEX and KFOR, but crucial right now is to make sure that the border is secure. All of us should work together to contain, to deter, and to sanction Serbia from carrying out future aggression against Kosovo as well as against other countries in the Western Balkans. This is the only way to peace and stability. Any other way or any other active appeasement policy towards Vučić will only embolden him to continue attacking and destabilizing the Western Balkans and in turn destabilizing the entire European continent. So I believe that what we're asking our friends to do is protect our joint continent, protect all of Europe from further destabilization and conflict. So thank you for being here. If you have questions, please go ahead. Sure. Do you want to start?
Thank you very much. You're calling for sanctions from European side against Serbia. Do you see a will among member states of the European Union to impose such sanctions at the moment?
There are some that are very much willing. There are some that are hesitating. But of course, we will be meeting each and every member state, and we will be providing additional evidence from the one that they have right now about the clear inclusion of Serbia in carrying out this act of aggression. We believe that if we continue with business as usual and just pretend that the 24th of September has not happened, this is directly endangering security and stability, not just in the Western Balkans, but in the entire European continent. So hoping that member states will think about security and stability of the continent in which they are living, we will continue to work with them to take that decision. But even if no unanimity is achieved at the council level, there are still ways how they can make Vučić learn the lesson bilaterally. First of all, there are a lot of countries that have a lot of programs, whether economic or military, with Serbia, so they can stop them bilaterally. And secondly, I believe the Commission can move on with some measures even without a vote at the level of the Council. So we're hoping to move on with these immediately, not just within the EU member states, but also other countries of the transatlantic community. And then hopefully in the meantime, the unanimity that we need at the level of the Council of the European Union can be achieved.
Germany is not among these 8 or so member states who think about sanctions against Serbia. I mean, the evidence which you mentioned now that was already knows, I think, last week. So actually the member states, if they want to know, they could have known. How do you explain that it takes it's so difficult for them to take some steps? And maybe last, where do you see the dialogue in all this? Has the dialogue any chance to continue, or is it dead? How do you see it?
So when it comes to member states, I think that after the discussions that we've had, where of course I was able to also present evidence for which we don't talk in public, many of these countries are taking this request for sanction against Serbia much more seriously. We will continue to have these contacts with member states, also through our security institutions. And then, of course, we will have our ambassadors continuously update them with the evidence that we are finding on a daily basis. I believe that these meetings have served to increase the appetite, if I may call it so, among some member states to undertake measures. Of course, all of them are talking about the issue of unanimity, but I strongly believe that on a bilateral basis, they can still do a lot. Secondly, when it comes to the dialogue, I just had a talk with Mr. Borrell. I believe we all agree it's not business as usual. We cannot just continue talking about technicalities or sequencing plans, and so on, when Article 1 of the German-French proposal, which became an EU proposal, was gravely violated by Serbia. Article 1 asks the parties not to commit acts of aggression against each other and to not threat or use force. We are in an entirely new situation first. We need more security for Kosovo. We need harsh measures against Serbia, and this will create a new situation and a more balanced approach in the EU-led dialogue.
Thank you. Leira Guijo from Europa Press. You said that you want sanctions and you need unanimity, but in the EU there are 5 countries that are not recognizing Kosovo, among them Spain. I wonder if you have any contacts with the Spanish government or the governments of the other countries that are not recognizing Kosovo, and if you think that it's due time of these countries to recognize Kosovo as an independent country. Thank you.
I believe unity among European nations in recognizing the Republic of Kosovo, a republic whose independence is in full line with international law according to the ICJ, would strongly contribute to peace, stability, security, prosperity, and integration of the Western Balkans. Of course, this is a discussion that we always have with all of the 5 non-recognizers. We do hope that we will have more opportunities to sit down with them and answer to any concern that they might have, but I believe that the International Court of Justice has already answered to any concern that these remaining countries might have. However, I want to point out that all these 5 countries have always contributed as countries that truly believe in EU values. They have contributed to peace and stability in the European continent, and I hope they see recognition of Kosovo as a step towards that contribution, but not just recognition of Kosovo, but also pushing forward for sanctions towards Serbia, who is just acting as a Putin proxy in all of this situation. After all, Serbia remains the only European country with no sanctions against Russia. So their talks with the European Union should have been frozen a long time ago, and no one should have waited for them to commit an act of aggression against Kosovo. However, now there are more and more arguments to undertake those measures. We truly count on Spain, as well as every other member of the European Union, to join everyone else in helping more peace and stability and prosperity towards the Western Balkans. I believe that's in the interest of everyone in Europe, not just ours.
Sarah Ann Arup from Politico. Could you please tell us what type of sanctions you would ideally like to see? And can you also tell us more about your dialogue with the US in terms of sanctions? Thanks.
So we've drafted a long list of possible sanctions that we have shared with some of our partners. That is being updated because, of course, we need information about all of the programs that Serbia has bilaterally with these countries. They range from military sanctions to sanctions that relate to economic projects. A few days ago, the president of Serbia was bragging about how he gets 63% of all funds that the EU spends in the Western Balkans. It's about time to freeze those funds. It's about time to stop the EU money, because EU money should go hand in hand with EU values to begin with. Vučić not only violates those values on a daily basis, but now that he has also committed an act of aggression against his neighbor, this is more than enough evidence to stop EU funds. There's a lot more to it, but perhaps in a separate interview in the days to come, we can talk about more details. So with the United States, of course, we're talking in this sense as well. We're talking, they have their own procedures, and that also answers part of your question, why is it taking so long for some countries to decide? Every single country, from what we have been told, has a certain procedure on how they deal with the evidence that is produced by our security institution and how they confirm that evidence through their own security channels. For some, it might take a couple of days. For some, it might take a little more, because we're not dealing here with a very simple situation. We're dealing with an act of aggression that was committed through paramilitary units and terrorist groups. As far as we're concerned, there's plenty of evidence in closed meetings that we have. Of course, many of our allies believe that the evidence is extremely compelling. I'm not going to mention which ones, but we are patient, and we're going to wait for their procedures to be concluded for them to come out publicly and say this, as well as to adopt the measures that they have been planning to adopt towards Serbia. Maybe over there.
Hello, Belen Carreño from Reuters. I would like to insist a little in this thing about the 5 non-recognizers. If you meet any of them, and specifically if you have any kind of contact with Spain, how do you interpret, or how do you see the thing that Spain invite Kosovo to be here today and to be in the summit? Or, well, what kind of treatment you have received from Spain delegation, which is the host at the end of the day of this event? And if you think this is a step forward, some kind of recognition, or we are today a little bit closer to that? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We have been treated like any other member of the European political community. Let's not forget we are a founding member of the EPC, an equal member of the EPC. Equality of all, no matter how big or small the countries are, has been the principle, the very foundation of the European political community. So that when Spain took over organizing the EPC, of course, they were aware that the rules of the EPC require that every single country is treated the same way. We were treated the same way, and we want to thank Spain for the welcoming and for organizing this very important event. I think we need more and more contacts with Spain so that we can sit down, listen to one another, answer to each other's question. We want to hear their concerns. We want to help them to come to this inevitable decision, because Kosovo's independence, it's an irreversible reality. The sooner that decision, of course, is taken, the more they will be contributing to peace and stability in the entire Western Balkans, and they will be helping all of us to open the doors for integration into the European Union and the Euro-Atlantic community as a whole. So, of course, I want to thank everyone for the hospitality, but I think there's still a lot that we have to do, and a lot of communication and contacts through which we can answer their concerns, and hopefully will convince them to come to the decision that would contribute to security and stability for all of us. Today, of course, I had contacts, but mostly to inform the Prime Minister of Spain about what happened in North Kosovo on the 24th of September. That is the only topic. As I've informed almost every other leader, some of the rest I'll be meeting this evening. So it's very important for European leaders to be informed of what's the security challenges on European soil, because we are part of Europe. So I did inform the Spanish Prime Minister as well. So most of these meetings happen in sidelines, pull-asides, discussions in joint environments. So we didn't have a bilateral, if that's the question that you're asking. But I used the opportunity to inform the Prime Minister of Spain as well about what's going on, because I strongly believe Spain is very much interested to help all of Europe, including the Western Balkans, to be more peaceful and more stable. So given that it's a country that has always fought for a values-based system in the EU, and given that Kosovo is a country that does the same, and we share the same values, I thought that this conversation would be useful. Another question? Yeah.
A very short question. Did you have any contact with the Serbian president today, or are you planning to have any contact later today?
No. No and no. I believe I explained today in the morning, we strongly believe that there should be clear steps before such a meeting. There need to be measures towards Serbia. The president of Serbia directly is involved in an act of aggression against Kosovo. We cannot pretend that this did not happen. nice pictures are not more important than the substance of what's going on. He needs to use these kind of meetings so that he can look like a normal European leader, which he's not, unfortunately. He's the leader of an act of aggression against his neighbor, a dictator, in fact, that wants to destroy the stability and peace in the Western Balkans. And of course, he was taking notes for quite some time because he was getting away with it. You know, he was getting away with kidnapping 3 police officers of Kosovo within Kosovo territory. He got away with it. He participated through his gangs in attacking 93 KFOR soldiers. He got away with it. He keeps destabilizing Kosovo, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Montenegro, and so on and so on. He got away with it. He didn't adopt sanctions against Russia, quite the opposite. He helps Russia evade sanctions from Europe. He buys more and more weapons from Russia, through which he attacks us. And he signed a new Gazprom deal after Russia invaded Ukraine. He got away with all of this. He has a so-called Russian humanitarian center in the border with Kosovo, which according to the American DOD is a Russian spy center. He gets away with it. No one is asking him to remove that Russian center, which is endangering, by the way, all of us, not just Kosovo. And of course, he got away with everything. The dictator wannabe that he was taking notes, and he thought that he can also get away with an act of aggression against Kosovo. If there are no lessons learned from what happened on the 24th of September, of course, he will continue based on Putin's playbook. The people of Kosovo, of course, will continue to defend our freedom, our independence, our territorial integrity, and the hard-won freedoms and the successes that we have achieved together with the transatlantic community. If there are no more questions, I want to thank you all for your presence here today and also for the correct reporting that you do on a daily basis. Thank you.